In Shemot chapter 2, we watch Moshe go from a hidden baby in Mitsrayim to a fugitive shepherd in Midian. In Shemot chapter 3, which we'll study, that quiet hidden life explodes into an open encounter at the burning bush, where the Elohim of his fathers calls him from the backside of the wilderness into the heart of Pharaoh's court. We'll be reading Shemot chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. It says, And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Yitro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And the messenger of the Creator appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, Let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. And the Creator saw that he turned aside to see, and Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzchak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. So this is where the shepherd of Midian meets the burning bush on Horeb. And he hears, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, and he learns the name of the Creator. I am the father of your fathers. I am the Elohim of your fathers. If there's one thing that we can describe Moshe, even though he grew up in a palace, is that his life epitomizes that of a shepherd. He was a shepherd for years, faithful guarding his father-in-law's flock and keeping them from straying into other people's fields. And he deliberately did this by going by the back side of the wilderness. So he pushed to the end, to the mountain side, until he reached Mount Horeb, which is otherwise called Sinai. And this is where an ordinary workday turns into a holy encounter. So we see that Moshe, he was diligent even with the caring of flocks, keeping them away from the crowds, going the far distance to provide for his flock. Also in verse 1, we see where Yithro is referred to as his father-in-law. So we see that relationship highlighted, father-in-law, son-in-law, and this is the first mention of in-law relationship in Torah. In the middle of this caring for the sheep, a messenger appeared in a flame in the midst of a bush that burns, but the bush was not consumed. So, out of curiosity, Moshe turned aside to see what great sight it was. And there it was, the Creator called to him. And I think it's in verse 4, he says, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, Here I am. And at that moment, he called Moshe to remove his sandals because the ground was set apart. And he actually invited Moshe to be barefoot, grounded, and present himself before divine presence. There's this practice that is called grounding, and it's something that is worth trying. We are always in our socks, shoes, or slippers, but if we take that time to go in the dirt and mingle our toes and our heels in the dirt, you'll find how reinvigorating and re-energizing it is. It is actually that powerful to actually give the body a reset and it's worth that we spend time to connect with the Creator's resources and see how much it benefits us more than even Big Pharma. But in the middle of all this, the question that comes to mind is, what does the burning bush scene show about how Elohim interrupts an ordinary day? There we are going from school to work, work to school, visiting our regular institutions, and out of the blue, there's a divine intervention that distracts us from what we have set out to do. And this is how the Creator works at times, interrupts our ordinary life, and it's indeed for our good. It shows that Elohim often meets us in the middle of faithful everyday work. And when we turn aside with curiosity, He reveals that the ground we've been walking on is already His holy ground. It is His place, it is peace, right? So there's nowhere that we can venture that the Creator's presence can't be there and will not be there to actually intervene and bring you to the light. Verse 7 says, And the Creator said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitsrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mitsrayim, and to bring them up from the land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Evites, and the Jebusites. And now, see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mitsrayim oppress them. And now, come, I am sending you to Pharaoh, to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitsrayim. And Moshe said to Elohim, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitsrayim? And he said, Because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitsrayim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain. So we see in these few verses the declaration of the Creator. I have surely seen their oppression. I've heard their cry and know their sorrows. He hasn't looked away or gone deaf to his people's pain. And this is a very timely reminder for the righteous servants. We are venturing on our own life paths journey, and sometimes we're wondering, how it gets so hard, and is the Creator really there? And out of the blues, we get those timely reminders. He says he has come down to deliver them and to bring them into a good and broad land. So this is something that he promises to literally do, to put them into a good land. That would be awesome news for many persons today, especially seeing the price of land, how difficult the real estate market can be, and how much you save and the price is going away from you. He is giving you land. He is the creator of the heaven and the earth, and so that is more than doable, and it's nothing beyond his power and will for us. So he has turned to Moshe and he said, Look, man, come now. I am sending you to Pharaoh. I'm sending you to bring my people, the children of Israel, out. And of course, Pharaoh, Moshe has his fear because he would have run away from Pharaoh and the persons who had informed on him. And Moshe's objection was, Who am I? I'm so small. Who am I to go and stand before Pharaoh? And what merit do I have? What ratings do I have? What credibility do I have among my people? Right? These people actually informed on me. They didn't look ready for redemption. I was there trying to help them with their conflict, and they informed Pharaoh on me, and Pharaoh sought to kill me. So those are some concerns that Moshe had, and he wasn't. I was expecting him to be more willing as this great and righteous servant of the Creator, but he was just being himself, and he had his genuine concerns, and the Creator understood that. And then he asked a question, who am I? Why should I go? And the answer that the Creator says is that I will be with you. That's in verse 12. I am with you. I will be with you. Right? That is the real answer. That's the real support that he can get. It's not about who Moshe is. It's more about who Moshe is representing. I will be with you. And that's what makes the difference. So it's very important we forget about ourselves and recognize that we're representing a divine being, the most powerful, and his will must be done in our lives. That's what's the ultimate thing that we should be prepared for. The sign is both present and future, a bush that burns without being consumed, and a promise that Moshe will bring the people back to this mountain to serve Elohim, showing that he can keep a people under fire without letting them be destroyed. So there is actually symbolism in the burning fire. The fire was expected to extinguish the leaves, the grass, and it did not. And so, no matter what fire that Pharaoh um, light on the children of inflict on the children of Israel, he can keep them safe under any circumstance. And just reading through these verses, it shows to me, it tells me about the Creator's heart. That when his people suffer, that's he responds, and he shaped Moshe's calling in a unique way. We're reminded that he sees it, he hears and knows every sorrow, chooses to step into history, and sends a reluctant shepherd with the promise, I will be with you, making his presence not human merit, the foundation of deliverance. Verses 13 through to 18 says, And Moshe said to Elohim, See, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, The Elohim of your father that sent me to you, and they say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And Elohim said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am as sent me to you. And Elohim said further to Moshe, Thus you are to say to the children of Israel, the Creator Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Avraham, of the Elohim of Yitzchak, and the Elohim of Yaakov, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, The Creator, the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, of Yitzchak, and Yaakov appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you and seen what is done to you in Mitsrayim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitsrayim to the land of the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Evite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the sovereign of Mizraim, and you shall say to him, The Creator Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. And now, please, let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to the Creator our Elohim. So after we've seen where confirmation that the Creator sees affliction of his people and he has sent Moshe, we also see where Moshe asks for confirmation and question his own credibility. And the Creator said to him, Let them know who has sent you. And there's more than one reference to that the fathers is the Elohim of their fathers, right? And Moshe wants to to have an answer to the questions that he thinks the Israelites might have. What is his name? What shall I say to them? Because the people need to know who stands behind this promise. That's a promise powerful and too hard to believe. So the Moshe rightfully asked, and Elohim answers. He already answered to say that I will be with you. But this time the question is asked directly, and he said, Tell them, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh in Hebrew. I will be what I will be. And that's a dynamic promise of ongoing presence, not just a static label on a page like our names, just what it is. But any problem that you're in, any problem that Israel will be in, he will rectify it. In simple terms, he is, and he causes to be, the strong one whose revealed hand acts in history, consuming, refining, and establishing himself as head over all. And none is higher than that. He ties this name to story by saying that, look, I'm the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. In a world of many so-called gods, he is identified by covenant and by history. So there's a history of how their fathers survived and were sustained by a divine being, and this divine being made a promise to them and has returned to help them. And he said, "This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations." This is how he wants to be called on and remembered. So Moshe is told to gather the elders in verse 18 and say to them, "The Elohim of your fathers has surely visited you," echoing Joseph's promise that Elohim would visit and bring them up. And I think we saw that in chapter 2, the last part, where Joseph said that they would be remembered and would bring them up. And so here it is actually confirmed. And the elders who would have been around from that time would hear this and accept what Moshe says, and that would help Moshe's credibility in presenting himself to Israel for them to believe. The question comes to mind, how does the revelation, I'll be what I'll be, shape the Exodus story and our trust today? Because as we study, these stories are for us, even though it's about our for parents. What comes to mind is that it tells us that the Elohim of the patriarchs is not static but actively present in our lives. One who is and who causes to be, who writes his name into history, and who commits himself to be with his people through every stage of their redemption. So no matter what we're going through, he is there to help and redeem us through our bondages. Let's read the final few verses. "And now, please let us go 3 days journey into the wilderness to slaughter to the creator of Elohim. But I know that the sovereign of Mitsrayim is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitsrayim with all my wonders which I shall do in its midst. And after that he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mitsrayites. And it shall be that when you go, you shall not go empty-handed. But every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from the stranger in her house objects of silver, and objects of gold, and ornaments, and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mitsrayites." So Moshe is given the words that he was to say, but he also got a reality check that he was warned and cautioned that the king of Mitsrayim will not let them go unless he is actually compelled by a strong hand. So there will be resistance, and when we're doing the will of the Creator, we might see resistance, and it does not mean that he is not guiding and monitoring his will in our situation, right? In a combat situation, if I'm challenging someone, I'm not going to tell what I will do in the last stage, if my if anything, in any scenario. But we're seeing where the Creator actually tells you what will happen, and there's nothing that Pharaoh will be able to do to counteract that. He promised to stretch out his hand and strike Mizraim with his wonders and hit the empire where it hurts until Pharaoh is forced to release them. Elohim has also promised Israel favor in the eyes of the Mizrahites, so they will not go out empty. They will empty out Mizraim as they leave. So there's also something in it for the women. Women are specifically included. They will ask for silver, gold, and garments, wealth and adornment that once served Egypt's glory will now be carried out to serve Elohim in the wilderness. right? So if you want to know what the women want, here's in verse 22. They want silver, gold, and garments, and other stuff, but these are among the top wishes. So we may wonder if this is really justice to take away their things, but it is something that whatever the Mizraim's wealth has accumulated to is because of the work of the children of Israel. So it's really getting back some or all of what they were deserving because they were working on the slavery for free. So there's nothing that is too much that they should not be eligible to get on their way going. And to me, this is both justice and a sign. So it's a sign that whenever they're asking for it, they will actually get it. So they would have confidence knowing that yes, what Moshe is saying that the Creator has promised is happening, and this is something that we need to go on with full speed ahead. The former slaves will walk out with visible tokens of honor and restoration. And the question comes to mind: why does Yahweh, the Creator, tell Moshe ahead of time that Pharaoh will resist, and why promise wealth when Israel leaves? They could just leave without the wealth, and he could actually not tell Moshe that he will have a resistance, but it actually adequately prepares him. But he does that so Israel won't misread resistance as failure. They'll know it's expected, and the promised favor and wealth show that the Creator is not only freeing slaves, but also judging an unjust economy and restoring what was taken. So we see the forecast of Pharaoh's resistance and the Creator's power. And just reading Shemot chapter 3 moves us from Moshe's hidden shepherd life in Midian to an open encounter with the Elohim of his fathers at the burning bush. And there, a curious shepherd is told to remove his sandals on holy ground, hears that the Creator has seen, heard, and done Israel's affliction, and is sent back to Pharaoh with a single guarantee: I'll be with you. The Creator reveals his name as I'll be, what I'll be, anchors it in the covenant with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and gives Moshe a message for the elders, plus a forecast of Pharaoh's stubbornness and the future of plundering of Mitsrayim. This chapter frames Exodus as the story of a present Elohim who names himself, anticipates resistance, and promises not just escape from slavery, but the overturning of an unjust system. And we today face the Babylonian system, and we know that it is unfair, it's unjust, and it's not sustainable, and it's just a matter of time before we have our deliverance from this kind of system. Shemot chapter 3 shows us an Elohim who steps into the backside of the wilderness, calls a reluctant shepherd by the name, and anchors that whole Exodus in his own name. I will be what I'll be. As we move into the next chapter, that's Shemot chapter 4, let us watch and see how this name, this promise of active, ongoing present, carries Moshe through his fears and carries Israel through their confrontation with Pharaoh.